Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Mayat Katan Daf Vav. We are holding 7 lines from the top of the Amud. Back to the topic of being Mitzayin a Kever. They used to mark, they used to identify the Imakum Tumah to ensure that people carrying Truma would not interact with that Tumah. We had several Makoros from Sukkim that one is meant to give advance notice to the travelers, make a tzion on a Makom of Tumah. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda, Matza Even Mitzuyanes. He notices one stone marked, painted with this marking. Tachteha Tameh. He must assume that the Tumah is beneath that tzion, beneath that stone. Now, although typically we don't mark too close to the Tumah, you meant to give him advance notice. But here, as Rashi will explain for us, it's different because you have a raised area, a stone which is visible from afar, and therefore it is sufficient to just mark that stone itself. And you know to keep away from it. So let's take a look at Rashi. 7 lines from the top. Motza Even Achas Mitzuyanes. He notices a stone all marked up, bisid with some lime. Tachteh Tameh. He must assume that the Tumah is beneath that stone. Umepi Mari Hazoken. Rashi says in the name of his Rebbe, he explains as follows: Even Achas Mitzuyanes. There's a stone marked. Shei Sid al Gaba. In this case, there's no need to mark at a distance. Why? Lefisha Even Gavoy al Gabi Karka. Stone is raised off the ground. He sees it from afar. He gets advance notice. And therefore it's okay to mark the actual Makom HaTumah itself and not the area around it. Aval b'soda, but if it's just a flat area, marchikin lo tzion b'samuch. They actually place the tzion near, with a little bit of room to spare. The zimnin lechazi tzion ad the asiv v'nagal mile, because there's a concern that he won't notice the tzion until it's too late, until he's actually on the Tumah. Okay, back to the Gemara. Motza Even Mitzuyanes, Tachteh Tameh. He finds a single stone marked. The Tumah is underneath. Shtayim. 2 stones side by side, with some space between them, and both stones, only the stones are marked, not the ground between them. Im yesh sid beinein Tameh. Oh, if there is some marking between them, of course, entire area, even the space beneath the stones, are considered tameh. If there's no marking between the stones, then just because you have tumah on this side and on that side, it still doesn't mean that the area beneath them is tameh. The area between them is tameh. So only the stone itself and the area beneath the stone, but not between the stones. Benein is tar. Asks the Gemara. In all cases, even though the land between the stones are not plowed, is it still tahar when there's no marking? Vatanya, but listen to this brisa which indicates otherwise. Matza Even Achas Mitzuyanes. He notices one stone marked up. Tachteh Tameh. Underneath that stone we have Tumah. Shtayim, 2 stones next to each other, both marked. If the area between them has been plowed over, Beinei Tar, then you assume there's no Tumah. But otherwise, if there's no plowing taking place, Beinei and Tameh, you have to assume that not only are the stones Tameh, but the area between the stones as well. This is clearly in contradiction to the previous halacha. Only the presence of charisha precludes the presence of tumah. Amar Papa. Typically, we don't assume there's tumah between the stones. They're not marked. Only the stones are tummy because they're marked, but the area between them, there's no marking and it's tar. This brisa is speaking about a case as follows. Hacha kashasid shafach al rashin. The lime, the marking, the paint is spilled over the stones and over the sides onto the ground below. So you do find some markings on the ground below as well. Umeruda lekana lekan, and it stretches to the area between the stones as well. So you found something on the ground between the stones. So typically, you would assume that's an indication of tumah, right? Now we have a kula. Listen to this kula. If that area has been plowed, you can assume it's tar. The ground is tar, even though you have markings, you have some paint on the floor. Why? The Eimer, we can speculate that machmas choreshu de ikbal, that the paint found on the floor came about through charisha. When he plowed the area, he scraped these stones, and that shed some of the paint onto the floor. So you attribute it, rather than attributing it to tumah, you attribute it to the plowing process, and therefore the area is tar. But if there's no plowing there and you find sid on the ground, there's nothing to attribute it to other than tumah. Sid the beini beinihu v'tamid. This is the sid that belongs between the stones, and it's an indication of tumah. So bottom line is, you find one stone marked, beneath that stone is tummy. Two stones with a space between them. If there's no sid at all, it's tar. Why not? If there is a sid, so if it's an unplowed area, then it's an indication of tumah. But if it's a plowed area, then you can take a look at the stones and see, well, maybe it's just been scraped off the stones, in which case you can attribute it to that. The charisha brought about, dragged over the sid, but it's not really naturally there, and therefore you can assume it's tar. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Meitzer echad mitzuyan. This fellow finds a field with one boundary, meaning one side of the field, all marked up. Now this boundary was a raised area, so it's like the stone which was raised. If it's marked up, we have to assume hu tummy. The area right beneath that boundary contains tumah. But v'chala soda kula tahir, the rest of the field is tar, because he wouldn't place the marker over here if he's trying to indicate that the rest of the field is tummy. It's too far from the rest of the field. So we assume right beneath this mark, right beneath this meitzar, tumah is to be found. Same thing applies to shnayim. Two sides of a field are marked. Heim tmeim, those areas. Beneath those markers, we have tumah. Heim tmeim. The rest of the field is tar. Same thing with shloisha. Three sides of the field are marked. Heim tmeim, the tumah is to be found there. The rest is tar. But arba'a, they have all four sides of a field all marked up. Now we have to assume that he had the field in mind. So he marked all the borders, which indicate that everything inside is tamei, hein tahirim. So the actual borders themselves, which have the marker, are considered tahar. Otherwise, he would have placed his marker outside those borders to indicate that I have the borders included in the tumah as well. So in this case, only the borders all around the field have markers, hein tahirim. We assume that those borders themselves are out of the tumah. He was just indicating that the area inside, the field inside these boundaries is tamei. Hein tahirim, the border itself is tar. We call asada kula tmeya. Everything inside is tamei. Like you identify a field by its markers, by its borders. Right? So the borders are meant to border in the field. So when there's something on the border, it's an indication of the field itself. Look, everything inside this enclosure, this marker is tamei. But the mokum that's marked, the actual border itself, in this case, is tar. Otherwise, he would have done something differently. He would have put the identifying markers right outside, beyond the boundaries, to indicate that the boundaries themselves are also included in the tumah. The Amar Mar. Now, why did he have to place markers all around this field? He couldn't have just done only on one side. The Amar Mar, we learned in Marchikin Tzion, in Mokum Tumah. He never meant to put the tzion at a distance from the tumah itself, Eretz Yisrael, because we don't want to cause undue hefset to Eretz Yisrael, which happens when you place the tzion at a distance from the tumah. You're increasing the makom tumah. So typically you put the tzion in close proximity to the makom tumah, and therefore he knew full and well, if he only marks one side, nobody will speculate, nobody will understand that the field itself, which at a distance is considered tummy. He was compelled to mark all around this field to indicate that the enclosed area is tummy. That's why we have to assume the field is tummy. So again, if he marks only one boundary, which is a raised area, it's like that stone, we assume the tumah is beneath that stone, beneath that meitzar. But if he marks all around, that's a derech of making a gvul, of marking a field all around and around. What does that tell you? I'm identifying the field as a makom tumah, not the boundary itself. V'yotzin alaf hakilayim. So in Chol HaMoed, Bezdin sends out inspectors to go check the fields and ensure there is no kilayim growing. Asks the Gemara. V'kilayim b'chilo shel moed afkina. Do you mean to say they do this on Chol HaMoed? They go check the fields on Yom Tov? V'raminu, we have a steer from a Mishnah in Shekalim, which tells us otherwise. Be'echad ba'adar, on the first day of Adar, mashmiyan al hashkolim, they announce, they spread the word. It's time for Machzis HaShekel to be sent to the Beis HaMikdash. V'ala kilayim. They give notice to the field owners. Take a look at your fields. Ensure that there's no kilayim. So Echad Ba'adar was the time for V'mashmiya, for informing. B'chamisha Asaboy, on the 15th of Adar, Purim, Kurnis HaMegillah B'krachim, the walled cities read the Megillah, V'yotzin L'kavetz Es Hadrachim. And then they begin sending out the road workers, the construction workers. They go pull out the kaitzim, the weeds, the wild growing weeds which appear on the roads. Osakan Rocheves, to go out fix the squares. Uvalamad HaMikvahs, they fix the city square and they check the mikvah, the mikvahs throughout the city, to ensure that they're functioning properly. V'oisin kol tzarchei harabim, and they go out and they take care of all the public works. Umitzaynis akvaros, they mark the graves, mark the tumah. V'yotzin alaf hakilayim, and they go out to check the fields to ensure there's no presence of kilayim. Reb Lezer, so we have a stira. Here we learn. When did they send out the kilayim inspectors? 15 of Adar. And now Mishnah we learn it takes place only Chol HaMoed, a month later. Answers the Gemara. Reb Lezer, there's a teretz given by Reb Lezer, and a teretz given by Rabbi Yosef Rechanina. Chadam, I want to answer it. Kan bebacher. The two types of crop, the early ones and the late ones. Kan bebacher, the Mishnah in Shkolim, that they do the job on Chamish Asar B'Adar, that was to address the early growth. Kan ba'afel, our Mishnah, which indicates that they go out to check on Chol HaMoed, speaking about addressing the late growing crops, which take a while to surface. V'chad Amar, the other Mad Amar answers, Kan be'zroim, kan be'yirakis. Depends what you're looking for. Zroim, seeds, plants, Rashi says tvua, grain, that comes out early, and that can be inspected during Adar. But Yerakos, vegetables, take a while to develop, and that has to be inspected Chol HaMoed Pesach. Amar Basi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Lo Yishanu. When do we say that they wait until Adar, until Nisan? That's only El Shein Nitzon Nikar. If the nate, the blossoming is not discernible, meaning it's not yet growing, it's not developing. You don't see any growth. Aval Nitzon Nikar, but suppose you discern kilayim growth even before Adar. Yotzin Aleim le'alter, there's a gersa le'alter. Then Bezdin sends out shluchim right away. Look, there's kilayim growing in the field. It's irrelevant whether it's Kislev, Teves, Shvat. If you see it, of course you have to address it. Asks the Gemara, why is it that we send shluchim on Chol HaMoed? Is that an appropriate time to engage in weeding out the kilayim, doing malacha on Chol HaMoed? Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Yochanan. You know why? To save the tzibur funds, to conserve the mammon hegdish, which was used to pay for these expenses. Mishum schar pu'ula. You're saving on the wages. The moizli gaban, because the workers give us a break, give us a discount on Chol HaMoed. It's off peak. There's not much work going on at that point, so we get a bargain. in order to conserve Mom and Hegdish, we allow this to take place on Chol HaMoed. And Taisus asks from Mishnah later, you're not really meant to work even in this case. He says, Hani de mitzvah sitiru. Since it's a mitzvah activity, they allowed it, together with the fact that you're saving the Hegdish money. Amar Zvid v'temer b'misharsha. Shmamina. We have a right from here. Who pays for these expenses? Who pays for this work of the field inspectors? Ki yavinu l'schar. When we pay them their wages, where does it come from? Trumas halishka avinalu. We give them from Trumas halishka. So the Trumas halishka was the portion that they separated from the lishka, the chamber that housed the machzah shekels. It took from there to pay these workers. In this way, getting a bargain saves Hegdish money. That's important. Asks Tosfos, how can you use Hegdish funds for this type of activity? For these types of mundane activities, non-carbon related expenses? He says, Leiv Bezdin Masna Lein. Bezdin conditions it. When you contribute to the Machzah Shekel fund, you're giving it Aldas Bezdin. And Bezdin has that in mind, that some of this money will be diverted for other types of expenses. In any case, it's a right from here that these Kalaim inspectors are paid for from the Mammon Halishka. The Isal Kadaitach, says the Gemara, Isal Kadaitach, Mididhu Yavinelu, because if, in reality, the landowners, Mididhu, it's from their money, Yavinelu, that we pay these workers, they're responsible for the Kalaim inspectors, what benefit do we have from it? Meaning, why would that justify working a Chol HaMoed just to save money? Call Kama de Bo, whatever they ask, whatever the wages are, lit and who, and they should pay for it. They're responsible. There's no justification for working a Chol HaMoed, but if it's tzibur, public funds that are responsible for these expenses, so we allow work on Chol HaMoed to lower the expenses. V'ad kama. Now, until what point are we concerned? Meaning, so you see the field that has some beans mixed into the wheat. At what point are we concerned? At what point, what percentage is considered Kalaim? Omar of Shmuel, like we learned in the Mishnah, in Kalaim, Kol Sa, any Sa'ah of a crop, Sheyesh ba roiva zera miminacha, where you find a quarter, Rashi says a quarter of a cob, which is 1/24th of another species, you have to deduct, you have to minimize. You can't have that amount. 1/24th is considered a significant amount, and that mixture is considered Kalaim. So they go out to the fields and they see some mixture, they pull out until they get to the point that it's less than a 24th. That's okay. Vatanya, we learned in a brisa, they were masakin, Bezdin was masakin. We don't weed the fields. We see Kalaim, boom, we expropriate it. Shimafkir and Kala Kula, we make it Hefker. And here you say that they go out and they reduce it to less than a 24th, they leave it intact. Like Kashi, the answer is, depends at what point in history we're speaking. You see, at a certain point they saw that the field owners are just neglecting, disregarding the halachas. At that point they decide, you find Kalaim, it's Hefker. Kan koidem takana. If it's before the takana of Hefker, then we go out there and we just reduce the amount to make it bearable, to make it halachically substantiated. But after the takana, when they saw that the landowners just blatantly disregarding the halachas of Kalaim, they decided knas, penalty. We find Kalaim Hefker. This Sani learned in a brisa, Barishoina, or a Mishnah, Barishoina. In the olden days, inspectors arrive, they pull out the Kalaim, and toss it out, drop it there so the behemoths can have it. And what happened? That defeated the purpose. V'hayu bali batim smeichen, the landowners were doubly happy. Shtei simchos. Achas, number one. Shebanakshin, Lam said they say, look, we're getting free labor. They're weeding our fields. Number two, va'achas, shemashlichen fnei behemton. Look, animals have what to eat. So they decided, this is not going to work. Hiskinu sheyu oikrin umashlichen ala drachim. They decided, the inspectors arrive, they find Kalaim, they pull it out, and they toss it onto the roads. So you don't have benefit. You can't feed it to the animal. But the farmers were still very happy. Although they don't have animal feed, But Shemanakshins are the same. They're getting free weeding service. So as the Deiros progressed, your Shemayim diminished. And at this point they said, there's no alternative. Hiskinu shim afkirin, so the kula you find kalayim, you all feel there's extra appropriated, it's hefker. And that's what the previous price on top of the Amud was referring to. So in fact there were 3 stages to the takana. Initially, they would pull it out, drop it off. Next, pull it out, throw it onto the roads. And finally, mafkirin kula sadakula. Says the Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, moishchen sa'ilan sa'mayim me'ilan le'ilan. We learned back enough Beis that on Chalamoid, on Shemitah, you can go ahead and water a field which is desperate for water. Based on shalach and that tired, that thirsty field, because you're allowed to avoid hefsid. But otherwise, if it's just to enhance the growth process, the profit, that's not mutar and chalamayid. According to the shita of Rabbi Yehuda there, the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, as opposed to Rabbi Meir, we're going to see soon, he held that watering isn't that significant of a mass, of a malach, and that can be done in any case. So we're picking up on that thread. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, moishchen samayim me'ilan le'ilan. Taisus in the base explains, apparently that's the way they used to water their orchard, their fruit tree. They used to drop a lot of water near one tree and then run it over to the next tree. You can do that because a fruit tree needs constant watering. And if you fail to water it, it's going to dry up. You're going to lose the fruit tree. You can draw, you can extend, you can pull the water from one tree to the other. As long as you're not watering the entire grain field, which doesn't really need watering, because it can sustain itself by merely a natural rainwater supply. Continues the Mishnah. Or another example, you have some growth, some seeds, some grain, which we're not accustomed to constant watering before Yom Tov. You have no reason to water them on Yom Tov. It's no hefsed involved. This is whose shita? Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. It's only mutter in a situation which can involve potential financial loss. In either case, whether you're accustomed to watering them, you're not accustomed, it doesn't matter. Rashi says Chacham is Rabbi Meir that we had back enough Beis. Watering is mutter and chalamoyed regardless. Let's take a look at Rashi, 4 lines from that. Masnis. Moishchen mayim me'ilan le'ilan. Why? The havik is sada beis hashlochim. A fruit tree is equated to a sada beis hashlochim. The pseudo yiseri ika, which can involve financial loss, if not constantly tended to. Aval yashkas sada kula, which means sada beis habal, which can sustain itself by natural means. It doesn't need to be manually watered. So that you can't water that on chalamayid. Another example would be zroim shlei shasuf ne'amayid. Plant, seeds, growth which is not tended to constantly before moed. Shlei hayu mulumadan lishtis tamid of ne'amayid. They weren't accustomed to drinking, to being watered constantly. Liyashkem amayid, you shouldn't take care of them chalamayid either. The hayav mashkelu tadar the ne'amayid, since it's not something which is regularly watered. There's no pseid involved. If you avoid watering them for a week. Firstly, you can water the entire field, the grain field. Likewise, in the case of these seeds, these plants which are not regularly watered before Yom Tov, go ahead and water it. He says every field can be watered on Chalamayid. Continues the Gemara. Although Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov tells us that typically you don't water a field on Yom Tov. A sada beis habal, which means it's something which is naturally watered, you can't take care of it in Chalamayid. But we have an exception. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, im hoysa sada mitu nenes mutter. Suppose this field is a moist field in a moist climate. So although it's a sada beis habal, which gets its rain supply from heaven, but if it's meant to be moist, it's just the way it is. That's the way it's successful. It's always wet and moist. And suddenly, we're hit with a dry spell and it's just drying up on us. Mutter, in this case, you can water it even on Chol Hamoed because it involves hefsid. Tanina Mihachi, we find the same in a brayso. We don't allow watering field on Chol Hamoed. Like Amru, that's only said Elabizroim Shlei Shasul B'fnei Hamoed. Zroim which were not regularly watered before Yom Tov. Aval Zroim Sheshasul B'fnei Hamoed, but otherwise, if it needs constant watering, Mutar Lashkois B'Hamoed, you can continue in Chol Hamoed. This is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov speaking. So this is an example of hefsid. Here comes the next case. And likewise, if it was a moist field, a wet field, and suddenly it's drying up, there's another example of hefsid, which is mutar according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Ve'id mashkin sada grid gurid b'moed. But if it's a field which is gurid, which is meant to be dry, it was always dry. No news here. Doesn't need to be. It's just the way it works. It's fine without it. There's no heta to be mashkir on Chol Hamoed. Chacham, which is Rameir, allow whether it's a dry field, a moist field, a zroim that are regularly watered or not, watering is mutar on Chol Hamoed. Amar Ravina, says Ravina Chiddush, and Tosfos learns like this, that even according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, I will allow watering in this case. Shemamina, we learn from here, Hai tarbitza, shori l'terbutzi b'choyle d'miyad. Explains Tosfos. Tarbitza means a field which was not planted. It's awaiting planting. He's anticipating being zoreah this field. So he's preparing it for the future zriya. How? By keeping it wet, moist, and watering it. So this tarbitza can be watered. Shori l'terbutzi. Tarbutzi is the lashon of watering a sada halav in a grain field. So you can actually water it, even in Chol Hamoed. So it says lashon tarbitza is on a beis habal. It's just the lashon that they use. This watering of beis habal. Beis habal is this field that's typically watered by rainwater. So you can go ahead and keep this field moist even in Chol Hamoed. Why? Because it's meant to stay moist. So he has a chiddush Ravina, even according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. This would also be mutar because this is some sort of form of like a hefsid, because he's preparing it for zriya, he's keeping it moist, and if you can't water it in Chol Hamoed, it's just going to be left to dry up. It's going to dry up on him, and therefore it's mutar. But the Gemara responds with a kasha. You can't say that. That's a chiddush. The Gemara challenges this chiddush. Sadik gurid my timer. Why don't we allow? Why doesn't Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov allow watering a sadik gurid? Sadik gurid is a field which is typically dry and doesn't need constant watering. Although he certainly gains and has benefit from watering it. My timer, why can't you do it? Da'afla, because what he's doing when he's watering that field is he's expediting the growth process of the field. The afla, something which should typically take longer to grow, mashvile charfa, he's just expediting it, making it like charif, azaris, enhancing, expediting the growth process. That's not mutar. That's not avoiding hefsid. Therefore, it's asar. Chanami here as well by the tarbitza, which is a field which is still pre-planting stage. Just because he'd like to keep it moist and ready for future planting, it's not considered hefsid. Let it dry up, and it'll come back again and start preparing it for planting. The only gain is that afla, something which would drag out. Mashvil charfa is trying to expedite it. It's not a reason to allow watering. Tana Rabban, we learned in a brayso. Ein marbitzin. The guys agree as the words ein. Ein marbitzin sode loven b'shviz. You can't water a sode loven, a grain field on Shemitah. V'loi b'moed. Nor can you do it on Chol Hamoed. Right? Like we learned all along. A sode loven, which is a beis habal, which typically does not need constant watering. There's no heta to take care of it on Shemitah or Chol Hamoed. V'tanya, We have a brayso which indicates otherwise. Marbisin, you could water this field. Bein b'moed, b'mishvias, whether chel moed or shmit. So we have a stira. Like kasha, the answer is very simple. Depends who's speaking. The first brayso which doesn't allow, because it's not a situation of hefsid, is Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov speaking. Rabbanon, second brayso which allows, under all circumstances, it's the Rabbanon, it's the Chacham, it's Reb Meir. Watering is not an issue. Tani Yidach, we learned in another brayso. This is going to be with Shitas Chachamim, who typically allow watering. On Chol HaMoed Shmita, Marbitzin Sadeh Love and Erev Shvius, you can water the grain field before Shmita. Kadei Sheyetzu Yerakis B'Shvius, so that it produces properly. So the vegetables grow properly on Shmita. But not only that, you can even water it on Shemitah itself. Certainly if it's going to help you for Shemitah, and even if it's not going to help you for this year. So that it produces properly for next year. That's also a reason to be mad. So the bottom line is, Chalamoid, Shemitah, we have two shittas. When Yaakov says, watering is only mutter in a case of hefsid. Chacham allow in all cases. Suddeness issues. A farmer who's being attacked by rodents, by creatures who are attacking his crops. So you can go ahead and trap them. Suddeness issues. You can set up a trap and dig a pit to trap this Ishus character, this type of creature. Gemara says it has no eyes, so you trap it before it reaches your fruit or vegetables. Besach barm, you can set up for the mice. Misada ilan, whether it's a fruit orchard, umisada halavan, or a grain field, kedarka, you can do it the way you typically do. You can trap in your conventional manner. B'moed b'shvius, whether it's chalamoid or shvius. Because it involves hefsid. So even though you're digging, you're setting up traps, it's mutter, to avoid financial loss. V'chacham oimrim, they are mechalik, differentiate. Depends on the level of severity. Misada ilan kedarka. If they're attacking your orchards, then you can employ conventional means to trap the animals, because Rashi says it's a hefsed meruba if they attack your fruit. Misada lavan shloi kedarka, but just a grain field, apparently that's not really attacked so severely, and there's not much hefsed going on. So you can do something, but do it in a shinoi, deviate from the norm. Another halacha. Suppose he finds a broken fence. You can repair, can patch up the perts of the fence, but do it in a non-conventional manner, as the Gemara will explain, without cement. But on Shemitah, you find a broken wall, you can rebuild it, no problem. Let's go over to Rashi, around 3 lines up. Masnissen. Sodden issues. Besade ilan b'mayid. They're ruining your crop. You don't have to deviate, just set up the trap the way you usually do it. Even though he's protecting his field, it's mut. Chacham say, why? But besade lavan, you have to do it shaloi kedarka. Why? Apparently the loss isn't as great when it's a grain field. The Mishnah concludes, some of his fence falls apart, you can repair it in a non-professional way. By Shemitah, you can just rebuild it properly, even though it appears like he's just trying to protect the pears, which are meant to be hefker on Shemitah. It's okay to protect your field, you can go and rebuild that wall. Says the Gemara, my ishus. What's this ishus animal that we're speaking about? Amar Yehuda Bria. He's a creature she'ein lo einayim, which doesn't have eyes. A blind creature. He's attracted by scent. Amar Rava bar Shmuel v'itema. Some say Rav Yemer bar Shlamya. My crow. Where do we find a remes to this creature in a pasuk? Pasuk is the Hillim. K'moi shavlul temes yahalich. Speaking about the enemy of the tzaddik that just melt away, disintegrate, like the shablis snail, which is temes yalich, which just disintegrates when it's exposed to the sun. Neifel eshes bal chozu shamash. She's a fall and stumble like this Ishus animal, B'chazor Shamish, who doesn't really have eyesight, can't see where he's going, he just gets trapped, and he's gotten out of the way. Torah Rabbanan, Sodan as Ishus as Achbarim, you can trap all these animals, Misad Alavan, Misad Ilan, Kedarka. Use conventional means to trap them, keep them out of your fields. Umachriven Chayre Nimalim, you can actually collapse the ant holes. The ants that are attacking your field, collapse their holes, destroy their tunnels. Ketzad Machriven, how do you go about doing this? What's the method to be applied? Rav Shimon Lil Omer, I'll tell you a secret how to do it. Maybe Afar Mecharze, go over to another ant hole, take out some dirt, and according to Rashi Ksav Yad, take out some dirt with some ants from the other hole, v'noisin the and deposit it into this hole. Now the locals will start feeling threatened. What's going on? Where's that earth coming from? It doesn't smell like our hole. And what are these animals coming here attacking us? And they just jump over each other, and they choke it. They kill each other. So they take care of each other. There, you get rid of your ants. But I'll tell you how it works. Suppose, provided that these two tunnels are to be found on either side of a river, in which case they're not familiar with each other. It's a foreign entity, it's a foreign scent that's going to make them feel threatened. Provided there's no proper bridge over that river, in which case they're not known to each other. These two schools of ants. Provided there isn't even a makeshift, like a single board bridge over this river. Like a mitzvah, there isn't even a makeshift, a real flimsy way to cross. Rashi says a mitzvah is a single a piece of wood which you cross by holding to the rope alongside it. In any case, there's no way to get from one side to the other. So now it's totally foreign to them. Where's the ants coming from? Where's that sand coming from? How far apart? Ad parsa. Need to be at least a parsa apart. Meaning, if there is no parsa between these two antles, they're close enough that even if there's a river with no way to cross, somehow they don't feel threatened. It's still close enough, and they're still familiar enough with the sand, with the earth, in which case you won't achieve the desired effect. Okay, so what did we learn today? We started with the tzion on that Evan. Beneath the Evan is Tameh. If you have a tzion on two stones, between them would be Tur. If you find some sid between two stones, it depends. So if the area is plowed, you assume the sid came off the stone, and really the makom is Tur. There's no planted area. If there's no plowed area, then that makom is Tameh due to the sid found it, which is an indication of Tumah. When they go out, check for the kalayim, Tesvav Ador, to see the early growth, or to check out the Izroim that grew at that time. Chalamoy, they would go out again to confirm that there isn't any late-growing kalayim or vegetables that surface with kalayim. We would pay for these expenses from the Mois Halishka, and that's why we looked to save on the expenses. With 3 madregas to the takana. Initially, they would pull out the kalayim and drop it. Pull it out, throw it on the drachim, and ultimately they will mafka the entire sada. Regarding watering on Moed and Shemitah, we have machlekes. But when Yaakov says, Dafka the makam hefsid, sada shalachan, sada ilan, or a sada metunenes, which needs constant moisture, or zraim that were accustomed to being watered, lifnei ha Moed. Rabbanan disagree, whether it's Moed or Shemitah, any watering would be mutter. What if he's attacked by these Ishus and Achbarim? How does he deal with them? Tanakama says, no concern. Do what you usually do, whether it's Chalamoyed, Shvius, and get rid of the pests. Chacham disagree. Depends on the level of Hefsid. Sadeh Ilan, which involves a greater Hefsid, Kedarka. Sadeh Lavan, Shaloi Kedarka. Concluded with some good advice on how to get rid of the ant holes and the ant tunnels. All the best to you, and Besuras Tevis for Klal Yisrael.